The lunar goblins were the perfect opponent for them. This mission will give them money and experience. This was like hitting two birds with one stone. Assel had no other choice but to cry. He knew that Ronan's statements were really on point, and since it was decided, our MC told Assel to start casting his telekinesis skill. The night then continued to be peaceful, and within this quiet night, these treasures were already being transferred one by one. Ronan's and Assel's bags were slowly being filled. These items right here were the last ones inside the treasure chest of the goblins. Assel really focused himself on using his skill because he didn't want to mess up. Our MC smiled as he saw that the treasures were successfully transferred. Their bags were even glowing inside. 2 bags got filled and it was all worth it. Ronan praised his buddy for doing such an amazing job, but all along, he knew that Assel could really do it. And right at this panel, he addressed Assel as a girl again. He even thought that this lady was better than he expected. His eyes and smile then changed into this devilish style as he thought that he gained a really good minion. Ronan started to pack everything up as they were done with their mission. He told Assel that they should go back now. They needed to hurry before anything went wrong. Ronan seemed to have jinxed it as something along the forest started. 2 men were running at top speed as they were trying to chase something. These 2 were trying to catch this bird. Their loud shouts then alerted our MC and Assel. They wondered who these people were as they just caused some chaos inside the forest. The noise that those 2 created also woke up the goblins. Their leader immediately checked their treasure and found out that it was emptied. This one panicked as he confirmed it. He then alerted all the other goblins in their group. This happened in a matter of seconds. They were able to have a quick meeting, and as they were thinking where their treasures had gone, these goblins noticed something. They saw 2 humans that were about to escape. Ronan and Assel thought that they messed up. The goblins immediately rushed towards them. Assel was already panicking. He didn't know what to do. This one fell on his knees. He was too scared to even move. Meanwhile, Ronan kept his calm composure. They will not run and throw their bags just because of these goblins. And besides, they have no other way they could pay their tuition if they will lose these treasures. These monsters were now closing in. But Ronan was still busy checking his weapon. He thought that this longsword was made from cheap steel. But he knew that this cheap longsword would withstand 15 attacks. The only problem was that these goblins that just jumped towards them were about 30 in. Assel couldn't do anything but to watch as these goblins were about to attack them. He even warned Ronan to watch out. But as for RMC, 15 attacks was more than enough to deal with these monsters. He then made this wide slash and he already got 3 of them. Their heads were already detached from their bodies. Assel was shocked as he witnessed this scene. Ronan explained that he still had 14 attacks left. The crows around the forest made some sounds as they witnessed what happened. The lunar goblins got annihilated by a single human. Ronan managed to defeat all of the monsters. Assel thought that this was too impossible. But his eyes didn't deceive him. Ronan has done it. He recalled the first slash that RMC did that defeated 3 goblins instantly. As for these mobs that came after that, he recalled that Ronan disappeared for a little while. And one by one, these guys started to fall to the ground. Their limbs were also chopped off. Ronan just displayed amazing swordsmanship skill. These monsters have no way of winning this fight against RMC. Assel thought that he just saw a genius. When the fight was over, Ronan got Assel's attention. He can't be spacing like that. RMC then smiled and told him that they should now get ready as they will be going home. The night was still young when they were walking back. The weight of these bags that were full of treasures also started to toll on their bodies. Ronan also whined about his muscles being sore after that short fight with the goblins. He thought that he would do some intense physical training tomorrow to make his muscles stronger. Assel then asked RMC about the sound that alerted them and the goblins. But Ronan also had no idea. He was also still annoyed because that loud voice interrupted their perfect plan. He thought that those people were really out of their minds screaming in the middle of the night. They walked peacefully back home. An arrow was pointed at them. And after a few seconds, the arrow flew. It was directed towards Assel. This guy managed to notice it, but it was already too near. Luckily, Ronan caught this arrow and it didn't reach Assel. This one panicked as he realized what was about to happen to him if Ronan didn't catch this arrow. RMC then started to scout the area. He then saw these two guys. One of them was holding a bow and arrow as his weapon. Ronan got furious because those two called them kids. These two unknown guys then approached them. One of them even apologized for firing that arrow. This one said that they heard a noise and thought there were monsters. He made this alibi while staring at the treasures inside Ronan's back. These two then made this kind of look to each other. They seemed to have communicated something. Ronan didn't accept their apologies. He already knew that these guys were lying. RMC then asked them to stop acting. He now has this serious face. Ronan asked the identities of these two. These ones didn't expect this kind of reaction from these kids. The one with the bow then slowly approached Ronan. He tried making small talk while preparing his hidden weapon. And after a few seconds, he revealed their true identity. He told Ronan that they were called Caliboro. He did this while swinging his weapon towards RMC. Ronan seemed to know this Caliboro term. He then caught this man's hand and prevented the attack. RMC was also quick and counterattacked. His punch was enough to make this one lose his consciousness. The other guy saw what happened to his comrade and started to rush as well. SL noticed this attempt. He then used his telekinesis skill while calling Ronan's attention. And right at the very last second, he managed to cast his spell towards their opponent. This guy was frozen on his tracks. He didn't know why he couldn't move. This scene made our RMC smile. He was really impressed by what SL did. Ronan didn't waste this opportunity that his friend created and removed the weapon of his opponent. This sharp dagger then fell into his hands. And he used it to finish this one off. This guy didn't understand what just happened. His body was not able to catch up quick enough. A loud scream was then heard all over the forest. SL then asked Ronan if their opponent was dead already. And our RMC told him yes. He has no plans on sparing someone just trying to kill them. On top of that, our RMC also told SL that these two belonged to the group called Caliboro. These individuals had gained no variety for their extensive history of engaging in virtually every type of crime imaginable. Additionally, they held the infamous reputation of being the most malevolent poaching group within the Empire. Ronan told SL that this really had to be done. Because if not, their organs were the ones who were being harvested right now. It was also considered a crime to let these people leave, especially after knowing their identities. And while they were about to leave this place, our RMC felt a presence. These two saw a bag that just started jumping and moving on its own. Ronan and SL approached the bag to check it. They thought that this one may be a poached animal. Our RMC opened the bag and a pair of glaring eyes stared at him. And after a few seconds, the animal inside flew outside. This blue flying animal was now hovering above these two. Ronan wondered what the hell was this chicken thing. Ronan and SL can't believe what they were seeing. They thought that this creature was just a blue chicken, but that was not it. It was a cute blue bird. SL was bewildered by this creature as this was the first time he saw this one. Ronan told him that it was the same for him. As this blue bird was flying in front of them, our RMC noticed a shackle that was on its feet. Ronan knew that this shackle was a Caliboro's poaching shackle. Its main purpose was to disturb the wearer's mana and restrict their movements. Our RMC recalled the use of this thing. He remembered that this item was usually being used on rare occasions, especially when catching fantastical creatures. This thought made Ronan realize something. A mysterious voice also started coming out from this creature. There was now a magic circle on its head. After a few more seconds, the voice became more clear. This one claimed that something was finally linked. This event made these two back a little bit. SL got scared and thought that a bird was talking. But Ronan told him that it was only communication magic. Our RMC then looked at the bag where this creature was previously contained. He concluded that this bag may have the power to block mana. A mysterious being was then shown. This was the owner of the voice that was coming out from the magic circle. He introduced himself as Varen and he was researching about the fantastical beast at the institution. He told Ronan and SL that this bird was named Marpus. And it has been quite a while since he was able to find a connection with it. Ronan then asked these two about their identities. Ronan told him that they were just passers-by. Our RMC also told him about the poachers they just fought now. He shared that these poachers were the ones who kidnapped Marpus. Ronan was about to share how he saved this bird, but he hesitated. There was just too much bloodshed and it was really not right to share this one to Varen. He just opted to conclude that they saved Marpus against the poachers. Ronan didn't expect that there will be poachers that will tar at his fantastical bird. He claimed that he was now in debt with Ronan, but he still didn't know how to repay him. Ronan told him that Varen really didn't need to. Their main concern was how they could return Marpus to him. This blue bird seemed to be really tired by the way it looked. Our RMC asked him if Marpus could fly well if he would destroy the shackle. Varen confirmed this and told Ronan that this bird has a great instinct, so it will be able to return to him with no problem at all. And with a swift movement, Ronan brought his sword and did a quick slash. This move really destroyed the shackle that was on Marpus's feet. Ronan called Marpus's blue eye and commanded it to return to its dad as it was now worrying about him. And this was how this bird saw our RMC in its perspective. Its eyes were glimmering and were captivated, but before this blue bird could really return to its dad, Ronan noticed something strange. Marpus was shoving its eyes towards Ronan and it made our RMC annoyed. He didn't know what this meant. Varen then started to explain that Marpus just wanted Ronan to pluck one of its feathers. This meant that Marpus wanted to meet its savior again. The feather will act as a compass for this blue bird. After that, Marpus spread its wings and started to fly away. Varen also said his thanks and goodbyes. He hoped that Ronan and SL could visit them soon. Marpus's speed was really remarkable. It also has this cute smile on its face as it was returning to its dad. Ronan can't believe his eyes because that bird was too fast. SL then noticed something. He told our MC that there's something on his hand. This one then shifted his attention to what SL had said. Both of these guys were now confused on what they were seeing right now. They both wondered what this thing was that was on our MC's hand. A few days later, Ronan and SL went to this caravan. All the people here were busy loading and unloading their goods that were about to be traded somewhere. And among the traders here, one of them was now examining this jewel. This old man was the owner of Carbel Merchantry. His name was Duan Carbel. And he was now willing to give 20 gold for this jewel because of its purity and craftsmanship. A lot of these things were also being appraised, and Mr. Duan claimed that this must be his lucky day. The ones he was talking to right now was none other than Ronan and SL. They were now selling the loot they got from the goblins last time. Our MC was also glad because he finally found someone that was appraising these treasures at a fair rate. All the other merchants around this area tried to rip him off. They were just buying the treasures for a low price. Ronan then shook the hands of Mr. Duan. These two immediately got respect for each other. And as the negotiation was about to end, Ronan reached into his pocket and wanted to show this old man if he could also appraise one more thing. Ronan brought out a mysterious-looking egg. Its shell was colored like the galaxy. Mr. Duan started to check and analyze this egg. Turns out, this egg was from Marpa. It left this thing behind. This mysterious egg has its weird and powerful aura around it. And Ronan has no idea what it was. At first, these two thought that the blue bird repaid their kindness by leaving the poop. This idea made our MC annoyed, and he decided to throw this thing towards this huge rock. The impact was powerful enough to crash that huge rock. It didn't even make a crack on this thing. Ronan and SL were dumbfounded as they saw this scene. Back to the current situation. This appraiser was still checking this egg. Ronan was just there standing. He was patiently waiting because he knew that this item could be worth something more. This old man continued to concentrate on this egg. He was starting to conclude something based on its appearance. Ronan's face brightened up as he thought that he was now about to find out what this thing was. But his hope was shattered as Mr. Duan thought that this egg was just horse poop. Ronan denied this claim, and the old man told him that he had no idea what this thing was. He advised our MC to go and appraise it in a specialized place. This remark made Ronan more curious about it and decided to not sell this one now. Meanwhile, SL was still thinking if it was just a hard poop. Ronan then asked the old man if he was selling some books about Filion Academy. He shared that they were about to do the Filion's entrance exam and they still didn't have any idea about it. Mr. Duan was glad to hear this information as they just came with the right timing. The old man revealed that his daughter was also about to take the entrance exam, and he was sure that his daughter could help these two. And after a few seconds, a lady appeared and asked her dad what was going on. Mr. Duan told Ronan and SL that his daughter have arrived, and these two quickly turned to look at her. This blonde girl was named Merit Carbel, and she was the only daughter of the old man. Ronan's attention got fixated as soon as he heard her name. He kept on staring at this waifu's face. A mare had green eyes and a sharp-looking face. Mr. Duan then introduced Ronan and SL as their customers, that they just have done a big deal with her. Language was then scolded by her father. Mr. Duan quickly apologized on how his daughter acted. He claimed that Mary grew up in commerce, so she speaks quite roughly. SL told the old man that all of these things were fine. But then Ronan started walking away. Our MC went in front of this lady and questioned her identity. Ronan asked if she was really Maria. This one claimed that she was really the one. She even confirmed that her middle name was Sun. Mary was now wondering how Ronan knew about this information. Meanwhile, this guy was still lost in his thoughts. He was thinking about a certain someone he knew that really looked like this lady in front of him. The only problem was that the person he knew back then had this kind of body built. Ronan then concluded to just ask Mary something. He asked her to lend him an ear. Mary went closer as she was wondering what this guy was about to ask. Ronan then proceeded to whisper if she has the thing down there. Our ever-so-straightforward MC asked this lady if she has a deek. Mary looked at our MC as she was really caught off guard by his question. She thought that it was a stupid question to ask, but Ronan's face still has this serious look. This meant that he was really not kidding. After a few moments, Mary started to realize the question she just heard. She was speechless. Ronan then added that no matter how he looked at her, it seemed that Maria didn't have one. This statement made this lady more annoyed. Ronan was still thinking about some more possibilities that could prove that he was mistaken. But a blurry thing was already approaching him. The indistinct figure was Mary's hand. She swatted Ronan and told him to be quiet. Ronan didn't have time to dodge this one. But the sensation he felt from the slap was the same familiar pain he got back then. He looked at Maria again, and she now has the striking resemblance to Ronan's previous companion. The person he was talking about was Count Mary's son, just a little throwback. Ronan met Mary's son when he was just a disciplinary soldier in a place called Armorland. And Mary was the one in charge of the supplies. These two had a great relationship because Mary has this easygoing attitude. Ronan even concluded back then that Mary was an impressive person. The only problem was that Mary was getting unusually angry when all of the soldiers were talking about deeks. Our MC also noticed Mary's habit of swatting people when this person was getting annoyed. Ronan was really curious about this thing back then. But he really didn't have the opportunity to ask Mary about this because something happened. Mary died in the war earlier than Ronan did. She met her and fighting against the angels as well. Back to the current situation. Ronan smiled because he finally found the answer towards his questions about Mary. Mary was acting like that because she was a girl. All of the soldiers thought that Mary was a guy like them. This lady saw Ronan smiling again, and this annoyed her more. She was now heading towards him to give him a lesson. But our MC just swatted her head. This move made her stop on her tracks. Ronan told her to stop acting up as she had already swatted him once. He told Mary that she let her do that because he was in the wrong just now. But this warning was not enough to stop her from attacking him once more. Ronan received a powerful headbutt. These two then started their fight again. They looked like two children fighting over a candy. Assel and Mr. Duan can't believe what they were seeing. These two could only watch right now. And since Ronan and Mary were not stopping, they were forced to go and break these two. Later the day, the two calmed down and they were all inside the tent. Assel had this kind of expression. He was confused about what he was seeing right now. He wondered how these two were now acting like they have known each other for a long time after fighting each other a while ago. Ronan and Mary continued to discuss something. Turns out they were talking about their weapons. Mary has her inputs about how to effectively use these ones. She wondered why Ronan was carrying 3 swords in a magic wand. Our MC then revealed that he was using the swords quite heavily, so he needed to have a lot of spare in case one of them breaks. And among the 3 swords, Mary concluded that this black iron sword is the best. She shared that black iron was known to be more sturdy and the known knights were usually seeking this kind of item. Mary told him that she doesn't know how Ronan uses his sword, but she was certain that it won't break. This was also the first time Ronan found out that he got a black iron sword. Back then, this was his favorite weapon. This lady continued that the wand has a good magic stone embedded in it. That leaves the other 2 weapons. She then turned her attention towards Assel. She asked if this cutie was the rare mage that Ronan was talking about. Assel nervously confirmed this. Mary asked him what kind of magic he could use, and he told her that he could use telekinesis magic. This information shocked Mary because she knew that this kind of magic was really rare for all the mages. She even thought that Assel could easily get a scholarship for this one. With that, this blonde lady told our main character that they were the only problem for the upcoming practical exam. She asked him what he was planning to show the judges, especially some techniques that could get their interest. Ronan clearly had no idea that there's this kind of requirement. Mary then shared that this was the part where applicants needed to impress the professors and show them that they were really capable. This one also emphasized that even if someone would not do well on a theory exam, they will pass as long as they were excellent in the practical. She even added that if applicants would not be able to prove their worth, they should just go and forget about the academy. Ronan sighed as he thought that this only complicates things. In his mind, a swordsman just needs to be good at swordsmanship. The two then talked about the usual demonstrations on the practical exam. Applicants typically display their family's secret techniques. Mary even added that some of the applicants even demonstrated their personal mana fighting techniques. Ronan then cut her off as he questioned the thing about mana. This lady was then dumbfounded on how Ronan took this information. She revealed that if someone was eyeing to become a student in Philin Academy, they should at least be able to use mana. Our main character had this expression as he listened to what Mary was saying. He really has no idea about the basic requirements for the entrance exam. It was at this moment when Mary figured out that Ronan can't sense his own mana. Her body trembled in disbelief. Her theory was confirmed when our main character mistook mana with ore. She just can't believe it. She then hid her face in frustration. She didn't expect someone to be this clueless before trying to enter Philin Academy. Ronan asked her why she was making such a fuss about it. He claimed that he might even know what she was talking about. Mary stood up and told Ronan to go outside. This statement confused him. She then borrowed the two short swords that were on the table. She claimed that she had left her sword at the blacksmith. This action annoyed our main character as he thought that Mary could damage his swords. But she was confident that whatever she would do, it will be finished before that happens. She also gave Ronan an insurance that she would pay him threefold if she broke the swords. Our MC just sighed as he knew that there's nothing he could do about it. Mary told Ronan that he should hurry up and go outside as well. This one plans to give him special training. In this world, mana is the source of the power of nature. It exists everywhere in the world, but it doesn't mean that everyone has the ability to use it. Mana could only be used if someone would be able to see and feel it. This basic process was called mana sense, and to achieve this, people usually do intense, innate training. Various things would also come into play, but usually it takes 1 year before one person could sense their mana. Those people who were able to master this process at such an early age usually apply inside the Philin Academy. This basic information was now being talked towards our main character. Mary claimed that Ronan should forget even wanting to enter Philin if he fails to even figure the difference between mana and aura. These two were now outside. Both of them were now prepared and holding their weapons. Mary then continued to share more information. Mary told Ronan that aura is a type of mana. But the difference between the two was still too far. Turns out, the enlightened innate power that someone could get after such blood-curdling effort was called aura. This blonde lady asked Ronan if he understood a bit of what she had been saying. In our main character's perspective, he had already encountered countless people in his past life that claimed to be aura users. These ones were also able to use unusual powers. He remembered that these opponents were really annoying. But at the same time, they were also amazing. But their auras and unusual powers were still not enough. They were still defeated by Ronan. His attention was then brought back to the current situation as Mary told him that they should get started on their training. She claimed that he would learn faster if he used his body instead of his head. Ronan didn't pay much attention because he thought that Mary was just a young girl. But in a swift moment, this blonde lady was able to close her distance with Ronan. Her speed was clearly extraordinary. Our main character was caught off guard. His eyes widened as soon as he realized what was happening. He was still able to defend against the attack of Maria, but he was clearly at disadvantage. His eyes locked on Maria as he noticed something. This fierce expression was the same one that he was able to see back then. These two then started exchanging their skillful mastery in swordsmanship. They were almost at par with each other. Ronan didn't expect Maria to have this kind of power in their early age. He even noted that this one could even use dual swords. He then wondered if Maria was already using mana like she mentioned earlier. The problem was that he really can't tell because he can't see or even sense mana. Meanwhile, in Maria's perspective, she was already in shock. Her initial intention was to finish this fight instantly, but it ended up being dragged this long. Even if she was now using mana, Ronan has been withstanding all of her attempts. She also wanted Ronan to feel the sense of defeat as she didn't want him to feel this kind of humiliation when he entered the entrance exam. Maria was just looking after him, but right now, all of her plans backfired. The one that was being pushed back was herself. She didn't expect someone who can't even sense mana to have this kind of strength. She was still wondering what was happening, but then Ronan asked her something. He asked her how she thought he was doing. This also came as Ronan deflected her sword. With this menacing look on his face, our MC was already planning on finishing this battle. He even warned Maria to dodge this attack and never ever attempt to block it. Luckily, Maria's body was able to react to what Ronan had said. She then took a step back and dodged the attack. This one had her life nearly taken from her. She smiled and commented that the attack that Ronan did could have really been a real problem. That was the time she knew that Ronan was not an ordinary kid. Our MC then returned the favor and said the same thing to her. Ronan then commented that Maria was really talented even if she was not using mana. But her problem was that she was still clumsy finding her center of balance. This one told her that she would improve a lot if she could fix this problem. Ronan was about to leave, but Maria stopped him. She was still whining and shouted that their fight was still not finished. But our MC showed no more interest. This one really didn't care at all, and as soon as he said those words, Maria's sword started to have some cracks. This one still had no idea what just happened. The sword she used against our MC got broken. Her eyes widened as soon as she realized this. She wondered when was the time her sword received significant damages. Meanwhile, Ronan reminded her about her promise. The one that she will be replacing the swords with if she would lose against him. This lady was about to protest again, but someone got her attention, and this was a cell. This guy told her that she had done well against Ronan. His face also showed that he kind of knew what Maria was feeling right now. Ronan then shouted at a cell that it's time for them to rest, and this guy immediately went towards him. This lady was then left there standing alone while wondering what the hell was Ronan. These two left and headed towards their lodging. The next day, Ronan and Asel came back to the place where the merchants were just to pick up the sword that was promised to him by Maria. But as he was about to get it, something confused him. He asked Maria what was in front of him. Turns out, aside from the swords that were promised, Maria also took the liberty to give him books that they will need towards the fill-in entrance exam. These right here were all the summarized notes that Maria made. She said that they would really need these as the entrance exam was only a month from now. Asel's eyes were already sparkling. but Ronan still asked Maria why she was doing all of these. She then warned her as he thought that she was just pulling some pranks on them. Maria then tried calming him down and told him that she just came to like them. She even added that she just wanted the three of them to get accepted inside the academy. And to top it all up, all of the added things were all free of charge. Maria wanted to teach them lessons herself, but her life as a merchant prevented her from doing that. They needed to move from one place to another because of the trades. This lady then gently bumped her fist towards Ronan and told her that she wishes them the best of luck and they should now study hard on their own. She also playfully warned him that she won't let them scot-free if they failed the exam. Ronan smiled. He told her that she didn't have to do all of this and she should just focus on herself. After a few moments, Maria was already riding the carriage. She told Ronan in a cell that she would just be seeing them at the imperial capital for the exam. Assel waved his hand and also said their farewells towards her. And while all of these were happening, Ronan was lost in thought. In his mind, he now had trained his weakened body and all he needed to do next was to study. All of these things were not included in his previous life, but doing all of these preparations didn't feel really bad. This right here was the start of his new destiny. After coming back home, Ronan's days were spent like usual. Somehow slightly different. Because unlike his previous life, he would now always have his meals with his sister, Errol. This guy would also eat every meal until his belly burst. He was just enjoying each time that he had missed in his previous life. And with all of the calories that he gained from eating a lot, he would just burn all of it by hunting monsters all around the village. This method really came handy because it increased his stamina and body's adaptability. RMC had really come a long way since he got back in time. This one even resulted in extinguishing all of the monsters around the village. They all went completely extinct. After hunting, he also spent his time studying. This was something he wouldn't even think of doing when he was still just a soldier. Right now, he was still not sure if this will all be worth it, but he promised to do his best. A month had passed and the setting of this story had been finally reached. This magnificent place right here was called the Imperial Capital Ballant, and the best educational institution of the whole empire was built in the center of this capital. The mini-city of the White Tower. Assel was then seen standing in front of this huge building. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, it felt like it was just a dream. Today was the day they reached the inside of this place. The Philin Academy. This one was still amazed by the sight he was seeing. He confirmed the writings that he had read about this city being a work of art by itself. And while he was still in awe, someone cut his daydreaming off. And you guys all knew who this guy was. This one even told Assel to stop showing off that he was a country bumpkin and to just go inside. Assel was glad to see this familiar face again, but he then noticed something. He can't help to notice that Roman had this different look and aura right now. In just a month, our main character has grown a lot stronger. Roman had enough of these things and gave Assel a warning. They showed just go and keep walking. And while Roman was about to enter the academy, he remembered someone from his past and wondered if that certain person was also here now as well. The one he was thinking of was a sword saint named Shalapon. This guy right here was representing a renowned swordsmanship clan, Grangsha. Shalapon was also considered to be the strongest in the empire. Our MC thought that since Shalapon was also around his age, he might meet that guy here. But since he was still not sure, he would just leave these things to fate. Assel then interrupted his thoughts and asked if Roman had brought that something. The one Assel was referring to was the feather that our MC plucked out from the bird that they had saved that night. That thing was supposed to help them find the owner of the bird. This guy then brought the feather out and thought that they should go and meet the owner first before heading towards the examination area. Roman then noticed that the feather was pointing upwards, and that only meant one thing. The one they are supposed to meet lives at the top of this building. Meanwhile, inside the top floor of this building, someone was whining about his work of becoming a professor. This certain someone had the bird that Roman and Assel saved that night placed on his shoulder. The bird also started chirping. The bird seemed to notice that its saver had finally reached the capital, and its owner was this Werlion, Varan van Nasir. He was also Felian's urology professor. Varan was just about to open the windows to let some air in, as he thought that he would like the room to have some fresh air when the saver of the bird comes in. But something didn't feel right. As he was about to open the door, Roman's face greeted Varan. This scene clearly shocked the hell out of this professor. But Roman noted that this beastman dude was the owner of Blue Eye, and because this was really an unexpected way of meeting each other, the roar of the Werlion professor was heard all over the academy. Varan started trembling in fear. He didn't expect someone to come into his room using the windows. He asked Roman to reveal his identity immediately. These two then made themselves comfortable inside. Roman whined because the voice of the Werlion was just too loud. It almost made him deaf. As for Essel, he was still out of breath from climbing the top floor. Varan was still scared, but he asked these strangers if they were after his blue bird, which was named Marpus. But upon looking at them carefully, he noticed the feather that our MC was holding. This guy's face then lightened up as he realized the identity of his sudden visitors. These two were the heroes that saved Marpus from the poachers that night. Our Werlion professor then started apologizing for behaving that way in front of his awaited guests. He kept on doing this until Roman told him to just stop and forget what happened. Our MC even blamed their way of climbing the tower to Essel. Turns out, they have used Essel's telekinesis ability to float and make a shortcut, as this one was about to reveal that it was really Roman's idea. His face was smudged to prevent him from telling the whole story. Roman then changed the subject. He told Varan that he didn't expect to see a Werlion, a rare werhuman type, to be the owner of the blue bird. On top of that, this guy was even a professor. Varan then returned the favor and said that he was also not expecting the heroes of Marpus to be applicants of Philin Academy. He added that if he had known about this, he would have made a recommendation letter to make their lives easier, but our MC was really not paying attention to this. Instead, he came in here because of something he needed to ask Varan. Ronan brought the purple thing that he pooped out last time. This statement confused Varan, but as he got a closer look towards the said poop, he figured that this thing right here was a dream bird egg. Varan started to feel amazed as he held the egg. Ronan thought that this was just a normal egg from the bird. The professor then explained that this egg right here was not an ordinary egg. This is a dream egg, and the most interesting thing about this one was that no one has an idea on what's going to hatch from this egg. He further explained that if this was just an ordinary egg, it was natural that a bird would be watched on it. But in this case, it was different. A dream egg would be depending on the environment surrounding it, as it will absorb unique monotone order for it to be hatched. Ronan say that in an area of lava, a phoenix wrapped in flames will hatch from the egg. And if it has absorbed Mona in a monster's nest, a new form of monster would come out. There were also some circumstances where it won't take the form of a bird at all. Varan then added that he could still predict what creature will be coming out from the egg by observing the Mona from it. But he emphasized that this one was kind of unique. The types of Mona that were inside this one were countless and in great numbers. He even had these rainbow colors in it. And as for the moment, Varen wouldn't be able to know what creature will be hatched in it. Ronan became confused from the amount of information he got from the professor. He then commented that this one was putting such meaning into a mere egg. RMC's attention was then shifted to Marpa. He asked this bird why he would lay an egg like this and then leave it to his care. In Ronan's mind, he had never seen a bird so shameless like this one. As for Varen, he was about to ask something important. He revealed that he wanted Ronan to keep looking after the egg. This guy didn't expect it, but he really didn't mind keeping it. It was also revealed that this egg was really precious. A dream bird only lays one egg in its lifetime. So apparently, this was Marpa's next generation. But Varen thought that this was really not surprising as this one laid its egg in front of its heroes. He knew that this one felt something special towards Ronan. And since this bird has been Varen's friend all his life, he wanted to respect the decision of Marpa. Ronan was then given the responsibility of keeping this one. He then wondered what creature could come out from it. These two then stood up and were about to leave as the time for the examination was coming closer. Varen then told them to wait for a moment. All this time, he was thinking of something to give to these two as his thanks for saving Marpa. And he just thought of something that would be helpful. This professor then took out and showed this paper that looked really old. Ronan and Essel didn't expect to receive such a thing from Varen. After a while, the two had left the building of Varen. They also went towards this building, which was where the practical testing hall was. This was Galilean Castle's main building. Inside this one, all the applicants gathered at the waiting room. The facilitator then confirmed that applicant number 111 has ended. There were still a lot of hopefuls waiting for their turn. Some of them were even praying before entering the examination hall. As for the next guy that would take the practical exam, it was evident that he was still nervous. A huge hall was waiting at the back of these doors. And of course, our MC was also at prison in this area. After applicant 112, he will be the one who's next. Ronan was already bored waiting for this long queue. He even commented that they were making him wait for too long now. The person who was beside him was none other than this blonde beach, Maria. She was also still waiting for her turn. Ronan then asked why she was wearing this kind of outfit. This one boastingly told him that Filian Academy is a private academy which all nobles attend, so she paid attention to her clothes. She was already hoping to find a wealthy customer for their merchant business, so preparing like this wouldn't be really in vain. Maria then sighed as she was expecting to see a cell here. But the magic testing hall was in a different building than them. After a few moments, applicant number 112 was already done with his practical exam. The facilitator then looked for the next applicant. Ronan knew that it was his turn and he quickly stood up. Maria told him not to be nervous and just to do his best. She also playfully warned him that if he fails, she won't let her off the hook. Ronan said his goodbyes and thanked her for her ironic, heartfelt support. But before entering the room, he turned around and told Maria that he'll be back. Inside the practical exam room, there were different banners that represent different organizations inside the academy. RMC quickly fixed his gaze towards the people that were also inside the room. These 5 experts right here were the Filian professors that would determine if the applicants really have what it takes to be a student of this academy. Ronan thought that they all looked like ordinary people, but there's one person that was notable among them. And it was none other than the old man in the middle. This is the headmaster of Filian and his name is Kravakradar. He is also an archmage. Aside from him, there's also this lady that caught the attention of Ronan. He thought that he had never felt this kind of vigor from anyone since his past life. This one is the swordsmanship instructor, Nabiros. She's also the Grand Sword Saint. After assessing the instructors, Ronan introduced himself. The professors also did the same thing. Kravok then revealed the instructions for the exam. All Ronan needed to do was to attack the magically engineered dummy that was in front of him, and demonstrate any techniques that he had learned. Ronan then prepared himself and told the professors that what he was about to do was nothing special. This one was just planning to do a fast cut. His statement confused the professors because usually the students would show something that allows them to use mana. The other professors then started to laugh. They even said that there's always one applicant that was like this. One of them also commented that this was just to be expected, especially if the applicant was from a faraway country. This dummy looked like a normal one, but the truth is, it has the ability to withstand aura. The regeneration of this thing was also fast. In short, this training dummy was a product of precise magical engineering. These two then whispered to each other that even the genius Shalapin barely left a trace of his sword against the training dummy. Kravka got embarrassed by the way these ones were acting. They were even boldly saying these things even though the applicant was already in front of them. And now, this old man hopes that Ronan will do something that would prove them all wrong. In his perspective, RMC was already positioned and stood in front of the training dummy. But something felt different. Kravka wondered how this young man right here had this amount of vigor with him. In a swift second, Ronan had made his move. What he did felt like the time momentarily stopped. One clean cut towards the training dummy. The force of the attack even reached someone. Nabairos felt something and it made her startled. As for RMC, he was already done showing his skills. He then notified all the professors that he was done, and that's all he wanted to show them. The other professors then laughed and belittled this one. They noted that a one normal cut wouldn't really be enough to pass. This blonde professor even tried to get the approval of the headmaster. But Kravka was already in a state of disbelief. The old man was already sweating in his place and his eyes were still fixed on Ronan. Instructor Nabairos then suddenly placed her leg at the table. This shocked the other professors. In a blink of an eye, the Sword Saint disappeared from her position. She had headed in front of Ronan and had this kind of menacing expression. Her blade was about to hit RMC. With all her might, she tried to stop her impending attack. Ronan just stood there like this was nothing. RMC then told her that she had scared him. As for Nabairos, she was now asking the identity of Ronan. She also had this serious expression as she asked where Ronan learned that swordsmanship. These two were still standing in the middle of the room. Her question confused Ronan, so Nabairos changed her question. She asked if Ronan was able to see her movements and RMC told her yes. They were even amazing at that. Ronan explained that with her position from the table, it would be difficult to unsheath her sword. But when she reached his position, she had already swung her sword 3 times. Nabairos then confirmed that he was right. She swung her sword 3 times. Just like what Ronan had shown them against the training dummy. The demonstration that Ronan did a while ago was just too arrogant in front of the professors. Turns out, Nabairos already knew this would happen by the time Ronan positioned himself in front of the training dummy. His movement looked like he just did one clean cut, but the truth was he had already attacked the training dummy 3 times. On top of that, Ronan had purposely slowed his last attack so that the other professors would catch up on what's really happened. Ronan being considerate towards the professors had really offended Nabairos. And while the confrontation was happening, Kravok kept himself silent. Meanwhile, these theory professors were still confused on what's happening. These sons of beaches should not have been professors in the first place. Ronin then looked down as he thought that this was all just a misunderstanding. He slowed his last attack because he thought that this sword wouldn't be able to withstand impact against the training dummy. But judging from the mood of Nibiru's and the other professors, no one would ever believe him even if he would defend himself. The sword saying still had her blade pointed towards Ronin. After a few seconds, the blade was removed. Nibiru's then sheathed her sword once again while walking back to the table. She also told Ronin that she will be remembering his name. With this kind of intimidating expression, she claimed that she will be teaching Ron herself. Nibiru's then sat down again while still being annoyed by what happened. Professor Kravak noted what she said in his mind. He knew that Nibiru's was just acting this way, but deep inside, she was already planning on making Ronin as her disciple. And since he still has to stay sharp in front of this applicant, Kravak started complimenting what he had demonstrated. The old man noted that it was really a good effort in a lot of ways. He then proceeded to move on to the next part of the exam. But Kravak was now about to ask him a simple question. There's no right or wrong answer. All Ronin needed to do was to answer honestly. And as for the question, Kravak asked our MC what he was wishing to learn inside Fill-In Academy. Ronin froze in his spot as he really didn't expect it. It was then evident in his eyes that he had just remembered something in his past. And that was the scene where all of his comrades were piled in one place. This was when he realized that he was now alone. This memory then gave our MC a definite answer that he had been wanting to achieve. And that was to learn to not have any regrets in life. Ronin's answer left the headmaster in shock. This also filled the whole room with an awkward silence. After a while, all of the professors then realized something. They then instructed Ronin to now go as his entrance exam was done. Our MC followed their command and shut the door. Kravak was still wondering about the answer that Ronin gave to them. This kind of thing that he wanted to learn was a really tricky one. The old man then started to laugh as he found himself thinking of some ways to teach that said information to Ronin. Meanwhile, the other professors were still protesting as they had no idea what Ronin had done a while ago. But this was clearly not a deception. The training dummy that had been strengthened by magic by the professors had started to crumble down. Around the neck area of the training dummy, a cut could be seen. This right here was the proof that Ronin had this extraordinary talent. These two sons of AB then had their eyes widened as they found this thing out. The head of the training dummy had completely fallen off and fell on the ground. The student that managed to achieve this feat was still standing in front of the door. Ronin was still caught by the swordsmanship that Nibiru's had shown to him. He was now wondering if he could have beaten this lady right here with the strength of his past self. In his mind, he thought that he had already experienced all sorts of fights in his past life. But in front of Nibiru's, Ronin felt like he was insignificant. This reminded him that he really still has a long way to go. RMC then chuckled as he thought that he really made the right choice of entering the academy. And this was all thanks to his captain that gave him another chance in life. Ronin then started walking. He got this smile on his face as he knew that he will definitely be able to learn a lot more things here. RMC then proceeded towards the venue of the written exam. He was quite confident because he was able to memorize everything the whole month. He even thought that entering the Fill-In Academy was really easy peasy lemon squeezy. But after taking the exam, this was his current situation now.